Hello and welcome to vlog number 2. I wanted to give an explanation for my YouTube channel. It's called Forging Cities, and the reason why is because I heard this Jordan Peterson lecture, and if you don't know, he has a he used to be a Harvard professor and a professor at the University of Toronto, and he taught this series on the Bible, the series of lectures, and so he draws a lot of times from the Bible because he's studied it for the purposes of that class in depth. And one thing that he said that I think that he pulled from the Bible is, which is an ancient book that's probably the most influential book in history, and especially in Western culture. So it's significant whether you're religious or not, or whether you believe in God or are spiritual or not. It is very interesting to study, and at least to me. And yeah, so he was saying that mastering your own self is much more difficult than mastering a city. Being your own king of your kingdom, your internal kingdom, is much more difficult than being the king of a kingdom as we would normally think of one. So forging cities, that's part of where the name comes from, is that there are all these different facets of who you are in your life, and there are cities that you've gone to and conquered, and cities that you have yet to come to and conquer. And so my channel is about that. It's about conquering these trials in life and these aspects of your own internal being, and my journey through that, because I think we can learn a lot from each other, and I think that people would be really interested in that. And I do a lot of introspection and a lot of studying and research. My background is I'm an engineer at Boeing, and before that I worked at some other, good companies and whatnot, doing high-level stuff. So I like to get into some technical stuff, and I like graphs. And so it might be interesting from that perspective as well, but above the technical stuff, I also have a soul. And I want to have a record of that on video in case something happens to me. My son's gonna know who I am, and the world, people are gonna know who I am, because I feel like nobody really knows me, and I would like someone to know who I am for real. And so that's part of why I'm making this. It's self-exploration, but it's also sharing it with other people and hopefully helping other people who go through the same trials, because I think a lot of us go through really heavy things and we think that we're the only ones going through that. And sometimes it helps to see somebody who's already been through it and how they handled it. And so that's my channel. The forging cities part of it comes from, another thing that Jordan Peterson says, which I think he pulled from the Bible, is that most of who you are is a lie. The things that you say are things that you heard from somebody else, that you haven't really proven yourself, and that you don't really believe in, and you're trying to paint a picture of yourself to other people, and you're not really speaking truth. And so you need to burn off those parts of you, the things that you say that make you weak, the things that you say that aren't necessarily true. And even, and it's not necessarily that you're trying to outright lie, but it's just like saying, for example, that you enjoy your job when maybe you really don't. Or whatever, whatever it may be, saying that you think you're living up to your potential when you're actually not. Saying that you're happy in a relationship when you're actually not. So, he says that he realized when he was an undergraduate student that there were very few things that he spoke that were actually true, and the rest of it was just kind of regurgitated BS that he read in books. And I don't want to misquote him on that, but that's basically my interpretation of what he was saying. And it says something similar in the Bible, you know, if your hand causes you to sin, you know, cut it off. Or if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. And you know, I don't think that that's what it means literally. I think what it means is, what it says is better to be missing a hand or an eye than for your whole being to be cast into hellfire. And so what it means is that when you're walking around and not being true, you're living your life. Your life is being guided by these lies, these sins, and it does ruin the whole thing. A little bit of lying, like continuing on a career path that you don't like and not living up to your potential, could have a huge impact on the world. You have no idea what impact you could have really had. And same thing with a relationship. You know, you could stay in a relationship where you're not really happy. Maybe you're just starting out, and you could end up having kids with this person, and that is humanity's lineage forever in history moving forward. And maybe you were supposed to be with somebody else and create different human beings and create people who are going to carry on humanity for the rest of human history. So it makes a difference. These little things, these little decisions, or these little lies that add up, it actually matters. That's where the hellfire part comes in. And so in order to be born again, it said, another reference in the Bible is that it says that you must be baptized with fire. And my interpretation of this being baptized in fire, it means that you burn off these parts of you that are sin, that are lies, that are untrue to yourself. And another reference to the Bible, in the Bible and in culture, in our culture in general, there's this saying, you know, strike when the iron's hot. Well, that's because when you're forging something, like you're making a sword, you're putting the metal through the heat, and when the iron is hot, and that's when you want to hit it, because that's when it's the most malleable. And so you want to put yourself through the fire, burn off the ugly parts, and what you're left with is something pristine and useful. Like, instead of a chunk of metal, you have a samurai sword. So so that's where the forging part comes from, forging cities, because you have to go through the fire, and you have to be brave enough to cut off parts of yourself in order to conquer and create a beautiful, worthwhile city. And if you're going to go through the trouble of living this life and creating these cities and going through the struggles, you might as well do it right. You might as well go through the hard stuff, because when you look back, you won't remember the pain as much. You won't feel the pain. You might remember it as a fact that you went through the pain, but it won't be relevant anymore. The only way it'll be relevant is to say, wow, look what I've accomplished. You know, once you've gone through, like, maybe a tough schooling program, or you've gone through the stress of building your own house, or you've gone through the stress of childbirth, or you've gone through a major surgery. After it's all done, you look back and you say, wow, like that was definitely worth it. So that is the explanation for my channel. I hope that you want to follow me on this journey and that we can build something awesome together.